Hey, what's up? My name is Jorge. The person editing this video, his name is Thomas. And we brought it upon ourselves to teach you a little something biology related. And what's more biology related than the cell? The cell is the basic unit of life. Without cells, we wouldn't exist. This is why cells are so important. Just like humans, who have organs in their body, cells have organelles in their bodies. These organelles are used to keep the cell in a homeostatic environment, and they perfectly harmonize within each other so they can make any other production work. Like I said before, an organelle is extremely important. We will be providing you with a somewhat depthful analysis of each organelle that's found in the cell. First of all, we'll be starting off with a very familiar organelle that's found in the cell, and that is the mitochondria. What does the mitochondria do? It is the main agent in an organelle in the process of cell respiration. How does it make cell respiration, and what is this process? Cell respiration, initially, is the intake of oxygen gas and water, as well as food, to create glucose molecules and carbon dioxide. This is the main source of energy for the cell and for the body. It creates this sugar-heavy molecule called adenosine triphosphate, also known as ATP. And without it, there's no real source of energy for the cell. And it leads to cell failure due to the fact that so many of the cell's functions require this molecule called ATP. It is so energy heavy that it's the only probable energy cause for anything else. Up next, we have the smooth endoplasmic reticulum. And what does the smooth ER do? Well, it synthesizes lipids and proteins, as well as eliminating bad metabolic products. How does it do this? Well, it releases agents such as cholesterol into the bloodstream. Remember that cholesterol is extremely important in the cell membrane structure, as well as providing the firmness that the cell membrane needs to maintain its, sort of firmness, sort of stiffness, so that cells just do not envelope each other in weird manners and forms. Also, it produces enzymes. They break down carcinogens. For example, cytochrome P450 breaks down any carcinogens that are linked to cigarette usage, nicotine usage, and otherwise carbon in your lungs. What happens without it? Well, as per the rough ER2, without these steroid enhancements, without the secretion of the lipids, you have no enzymatic processes. And without enzymes, which are an extremely, extremely useful part of the cell, you commit apoptosis, also known as cell suicide. Now we move on to the brother of the smooth endoplasmic reticulum, and that is the rough endoplasmic reticulum. What is its only job? Well, it's to secrete proteins. But how does it do it? Well, the reason why it's called the rough endoplasmic reticulum is because it's made up and dotted of millions of ribosomes. These ribosomes, their job are to make these proteins. They manufacture these proteins and then ship them out to the Golgi apparatus for further usage. Well, without these necessary proteins, complexes and codons aren't created. And these are extremely important to the cell and the rest of their environment, thus leading to more suicide. Next, we move on to the ribosomes. If we look a little further into the rough endoplasmic reticulum, we find that the job is actually done by a lot of ribosomes. And what are the jobs, or what is the function of the ribosome? Well, the ribosome translates RNA into proteins during replication. The ribosomes are during the second part of DNA replication, which is also known as translation. Remember that transcription happens in the nucleus, therefore you have this chain of amino acids that come towards the ribosomes and make codons. How does it do it? How does this happen? Well, like I said before, it makes codons out of the amino acid chains that come from the transcription line, and they make a little translation line. Think of this as a ribosome and think of this as a chain going down and stamping them. What happens without it? Well, it's exactly the same thing as without the rough ER. There is no protein secretion, and without these proteins, there's absolutely nothing that can actually happen within the cell because these proteins are so important. Therefore, making apoptosis another major flaw. If you're taking AP Biology with Miss Margaret Campos, then you might have heard the analogy already that the Golgi body is kind of like the USPS, or the UPS, you might add, of the cell. Because its main job is to package and send proteins and lipids to different destinations. See, how does it do this? Well, most likely when these proteins and lipids coming from the rough ER go towards the Golgi body, they are going to be packaged in these vesicles. And these vesicles will send them to wherever they want, wherever the destination is needed or where they are actually needed. It can be in a vacuole, it can go outside the cell in processes such as exocytosis, or it can just go back into the nucleus. What happens without it? More cell suicide. Same exact thing. Why would we have proteins? Why would we even make lipids? If they're not even going to be transported, if they're not going to be used. It's very common. And next, we have one of the destinations of the many that the Golgi body will transport to, and that'll be the vacuole. What does it do? It's quite simple, honestly. It's a storage tank that stores a lot of nutrients that the cell needs to thrive. How does it do it? It encases it and it envelopes it into this big mass, or somewhat big mass in comparison to the cell, and it kind of just stores them there till further use. It's kind of just like a warehouse. You know, the Golgi body is maybe the factory, like the manufacturing place, and it just stores it at a warehouse where it will most likely be sold at some part or place or time. Without it, there's no place to store nutrients the cell needs to thrive with, thus leading to another end in the cell's lifetime. Remember that the vacuole, though kind of mundane in some ways, is still a very, very important piece. And nutrients such as vitamin B12, vitamin B6, vitamin C are all stored there for the cell to use. Now we move on to the lysosome. What exactly does a lysosome do? Well, it's the so-called stomach of the cell, and for good reason. It breaks down foreign/worn out substances. How does it do this? Well, just like the stomach, the lysosome has digestive enzymes that break down these substances. These substances could be engulfed bacteria, engulfed viruses, worn out organelles, or just toxic substances that are found inside of the cell. Without it, you have a lot of toxicity roaming around, leading to the fact of degradation of the cell, leading to the cell's death, also known as apoptosis, also coming into the recurring theme of cell suicide. This next organelle helps in the cell division, whether it be meiotic or mitotic part. This is the centriole, and what exactly it does is that it helps aid cell division. And it does this by producing these spindle fibers that reach out to chromosomes and pull them apart. While they're doing this, this is what creates cell division, this is what creates cell birth, and this is exactly what the life cycle was surrounded by. Without the centriole, cell division and reproduction is flawed or it does not happen. And because of this, that means that all the cells in your body, when they die, you will completely die. And that means that you will not have a lifespan longer than about a few months because these cells are continuously replenishing themselves. Now, we move on to the very last, but not the very least, of what found the cell's organelles, and that is the nucleus, everybody's favorite N-word. What exactly does it do? Well, as well as housing a cell's genetic information, it coordinates cell activity. It is the director, it is the boss, it is the organizer. Without the nucleus's consent, nothing will ever happen. How does it do this? Well, it gives instruction, as well as the structural basis, also known as DNA or the amino acids, for engaging in growth, DNA synthesis, and reproduction. The cell's life cycle would not exist without the nucleus, and that is why, or at least the eukaryotic cells, revolves around the nucleus itself. What happens without it? Well, exactly nothing. Because without instruction, the cell does absolutely nothing. It stays there and dies, just like everything else. Lastly, we'll be talking about the cell's exterior structure. These structures include, well, the cell's membrane and the cell's cytoskeleton. First, we just go off the cytoskeleton, and it's just, what you would expect. A skeleton encases everything of importance. So, You know, just like my rib cage houses my lungs, my heart, and my liver, the cytoskeleton houses everything important within the cell. Those being its organelles, like the nucleus, like the lysosomes, like the endoplasmic reticulum. The cell membrane, though, is what controls what comes in and out of the cell. And when we go into more complex, readings about how the cell membrane works, you will understand the full exclusion of how the cell membrane really reacts. Because the cell membrane is a very, very specific type of border. It's a border that not a lot of things can cross without specific instruction from the nucleus or the cell itself. And the membrane is in charge of just bringing things in and out in a careful manner. Well, as all of you know, this is kind of the end of the video here. But me and Thomas aren't going to let you go on this one, because we just want to say thank y'all for watching. And remember, vaccinations are bad. Don't get them.